Lord. Good night.
You get the bomb that done.
Okay, looks like everybody's here, so I'll ask the secretary, clerk to call the roll, please.
Alex Bassett.
Here.
Dan Gritsko.
Here.
Bill Hudson.
Here.
Eddie Payne.
Yeah.
Walter Townsend.
Yeah.
Roger Whitley.
Here. Let's stand and have our pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, first item is the approval of the agenda. They'll have a chance to look over it. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Bond.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Public forum, anyone in the audience that wishes to step forward and speak for no more than 5 minutes? Can do that. If you're here to speak on a specific item such as the budget, when we have our public hearing, you can wait till then. And I know George is here because of the parking question on the agenda. If you would just want to wait until we start on that, so it'll all be covered.
Whenever it's appropriate.
So it'll be cohesive and not,
Sure.
all right? So if no one from the public wishes to speak at the moment, mayor's report is not a whole lot different than I gave last week at the work session, so we can skip on past that. And we'll ask the clerk to report anything from the staff that we need to know at the moment.
We do have Miss Elizabeth Abate here with us meeting. She is our new town administrator. And she's setting it on our meeting tonight.
I will mention that we, since it's not on the agenda, I'm gonna stick it in here now anyhow. The mold problem in the building, the people who were to tend to that came the other day, and we've found more mold, and they said there was some water, which I hadn't been able to find any of that. I came over and looked around the building, Nancy, Gil and I, and James was here too. So we looked all around the building, and what has happened is when whoever put the heating and air conditioning system in, if you look at the center of the back of the building up here, where there should be a condensation drain pipe going down and off the side of the building, there's nothing. You're just running down the wall, and that way it's getting underneath the roofing and rotting out some boards downstairs. But there was not any water at that point, and you just hear it dripping. But so we're working on getting that straightened out with the heating and air conditioning people, and then getting the boards replaced. And then next month we'll talk about the scans lease of the building. That's something that can wait till our new year. Okay. Mr. Passett, you got anything from ARB we need to know about?
No updates.
Okay. Mr. Briscoe?
Same thing, unfortunately, Mr. Mayor, we did not meet this past month, but the thing we're still working on is finishing the comp plan.
So when you all get back together, you have how many seats to fill?
One.
One, and got a couple of candidates for that, so y'all make a recommendation to the council, and the council will appoint one of those candidates for that empty slot.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna hold off and follow the petitions in order of the two circuit courts to approve the one member to the appointment, if that's acceptable to the board. Talk about that before.
All right.
You're saying you're gonna do two at once, is what you're saying?
If that's acceptable to the board.
Sure.
I guess it's makes it, since you have to do two circuit courts, both in Flavanna and Albemarle, it's double the burden, but it makes it easier on the court system too.
All right, we'll look to your guidance on that. Anything for us on, parks or?
Well, government services, this suggested government service, look at the budget process and also parking rules. So those are kind of things we need to try to get in order. But it sounds like we're talking about both those today. And then the park didn't meet this, we were going through with, maybe later on this month that they're going to arrange this month. There's still some issues with the park. But we'll wait on that.
Okay. Mr. Pyatt, Mr. Payne, any, thing on the new police vehicle that's coming in?
I've talked with, Ms. Newton, and she's gonna get together with, the treasurer of the Rescue Board Incorporated. I'm looking to hear from her at any time. Okay.
So that money's got to go to the county first, and then it comes to us, is that how it works?
I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how that works, but
It just hope it shows up.
well, let's hope it does.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Townsend.
So EPC has not met yet. They're in the process of trying to get a meeting set up. And also, Jack is working on a app for the community to be able to access and be able to find the answers and information they need regarding extra events.
Okay. And Mr. Whitley, you got a big event coming up on Wednesday.
Yes, Bateau Festival, 25% chance of rain, so it's looking pretty good for that right now. Everything should be ready to go down at the river, thanks to Bateau Festival and the James River runs.
Be down on the river next year.
Yes, music will be coming starting at 3 o'clock, I think. The boats were said to arrive at 5, but they may be a little bit early because the river's up a little bit, about 6 feet. So I think I heard that they were making better time.
Yeah.
They're trying to be in. Okay, well, hopefully people get that word. Longer festival, but thanks to the um, 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 James River Bateau Company and the reeling and rafting folks, it'll be down at the river this year. Porta potties, vendors, food trucks, and music.
Super.
Was there any no poster this year for the?
I've seen plenty of posters around. Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't see one downstairs.
I don't know about downstairs, but I mean, I've seen it at different places around town. I couldn't tell you.
It's just for future reference.
Yeah, yeah.
To have one downstairs.
In fact,
on the website.
In fact, I know there were posters because they had to go in and manually change festival, the wording for festival. I don't know if they put festival or something, but it slipped past them. So I know they had that. Maybe people just put them out even more. And of course, online, I've seen it on Facebook, the Scottsville Facebook page, all the social media stuff.
For anytime there's an event, I think,
Oh, yeah.
given the mayor, given the LA, we need to
Okay.
put it downstairs. And
Okay.
also we could put it at the library or Baines. And also we need to get on the website because, people out of town aren't going to see these things in town unless they go to the website. We could put an announcement there.
Advertising is always good. Yeah.
Once we get the website in order, it'd be nice to have that as an information area.
Yep, advertising is always great. Next one, of course, we have the Fridays on the Canal Basin. Great success last time. I don't know a weather forecast for that one yet, but all's in place for that one too. Thanks to our good friends, Mr. Z's Barbecue, and other sponsors, town sponsors, business sponsors, all for that. And then, of course, 4th of July will happen before we get back to our meetings, and that will be the big one. So the plans I've heard are all in place and coming along, and I expect great things.
Volunteers for cleanup. Right now, I'll let them stand. And we're gonna have to do some quick cleanup because the market is on Saturday.
Mm.
So we don't want. I mean, last year they were here until 2 a.m. cleaning up garbage and getting everything ready. But right now, all we have is jam. So if anybody knows anyone that wants to volunteer to help, please see me. We'll appreciate it.
All right, any questions on any of this from anybody? Item number 7, discussion on parking. So at this point, let me ask Mr. Goodwin to come over and speak to us. Or Kimberly, whoever wants to talk, we go for it. You go for it. Go for it.
I don't know, I'm thinking of, but I'm from Really Shiplet. I am Scottsville Supply Company, not just as a business, but also as a physical building. So I am speaking today specifically on the parking. A lot of it is actually in your all's town rules. 411. It's in there. Also enforcement is section 20.4. So according to this, so there's a schedule of specific requirements for number of off-street parking spaces. And you actually list in your rules what considers and is classified as what requires off-street parking. We've got dwelling multiple times, dwelling assisted living, 1 space per employee on major shift. We've got dwelling attached, which can be like an apartment complex or a townhouse. Patio house, duplex, project quadruplex, 2 spaces per dwelling unit. We've got dwelling detached, single family home, and a living home. I've got multiple bedrooms. I mean, we even have funeral home, furniture store, B&C, eating establishment, all kinds of stuff. So what I'm looking for, and I'm sure other businesses are looking for, there's obviously a lack of parking in Scottsville. I know we do have several. I know over by, like across from the tavern, there's a public parking area. I know the farmers market is public parking as well. But what we're lacking is going down East Main and Valley on street parking for commercial. According to your rules, it also states that commercial buildings over so much square footage, I believe it's 300 for every 300 square feet, you're supposed to be providing a parking space per customer, and it's up to a minimum of 3 parking spaces per commercial establishment. I can tell you right now by counting parking spaces and how many businesses you have, it's not physically possible, and I do understand that. But what I am asking for is that at least follow the rules here on dwellings where residents are not parking on the street and that it is an off-street thing. It does state that in the rules. As far as enforcement goes, that's the zoning administrator. According to the ordinance that you have here, it says this ordinance shall be administered and enforced by an officer to be known as the zoning administrator, who shall be appointed by the town council. Zoning administrator is supposed to be able to enforce this. If that does not happen, it then falls on to the mayor, who's supposed to be enforcing this. It's been an ongoing issue. I know that you have another restaurant getting ready to open in Red Rose. I'm sure that they're going to be concerned with some parking as well. Every business does have different hours. That's one thing I do ask you to consider. That it's not just an evening problem or a morning problem, it's a multitude problem for any business. I would also ask that you look at your special use permits and make sure that anything that was mentioned in those meetings or questions that were asked by the town council to be looked at and reviewed and put into place what was agreed upon by the special use permits. Where it says, yes, if somebody said yes, that they're providing off-street parking, then that needs to be enforced as well. Do you have anything? As far as I know, loading zones for big trucks coming in, I can tell you right now as a business, I would love, by all means, I would love to schedule that truck for a very specific time and make my life so much easier. I don't have control as to when our freight arrives. I have zero control, whether it's UPS, FedEx, or whether it's the big FedEx long trucks that we have, anywhere from, I believe, 43 up to 53 or 58, if I'm not mistaken. If you do decide to put lighting zones in, it does take away from your physical people and or I guess customer parking, if you will, if you put lighting zones in. I know that there's some issues. I believe there's an issue with fire hydrant down here on Valley Street in front of Inspired Dress, where it's taking up 2 parking spaces. I know it's always done that. I've lived here my whole life. I don't know if that's something where it's able to be shrunk to 1 space and these spaces reconfigured and remeasured out. I know the fire hydrant up here, right in front of Scottsville Supply Company takes up one space, which is adequate. I don't know if you are required to have more than one space for a fire hydrant. I would also like to comment on as far as parking goes and food trucks. I've actually been trying to find that through your ordinance here recently. On food trucks being on street, I was under the impression food trucks were supposed to be off street, not physically parked on the street, like down the side of the building. Fine if they have the space, but I didn't think they could physically be on the street for any food truck. For Valley and East Main Street. I know at one point in time that was the case. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but how that would be addressed as well. I like food trucks, don't get me wrong, but it's just a matter of how much space it takes up. As well as how far it sticks out when people come through town, we're already working on narrow streets. To where they do have to kind of go around them slightly. Then the oncoming traffic, if you have big trucks coming around, that does cause a delay. I don't want to.
That's fine. Somebody else wants to.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah.
As far as your loading, does it matter if there's loading is in front of your building or could it be far away from the building? Well, my point is just, I've seen loading a lot in
Yeah.
front of the old dollar store.
Yeah.
And they put some cones up and that works really fine for Maytag. And is that too far away for you to we can make that the loading area because there's nothing in front of there?
So I don't suggest you making it linear. I can actually tell you that the cones that are being used to put into place to essentially hold parking. By law, it's technically not legal. I'm not gonna say that I've never gone out there. If I get a call 30 minutes ahead, if I have to go put something out there to try to pull a spot or move my car and hope that maybe parks there, yes, because it is a challenge. So how my freight in particular comes, everybody's comes different, but how mine comes, because they're up on pallets, they actually have like a little jack, almost like a little mini handheld with fork jack, if you will, that goes into it. They can't come up every curve, so they have to find whether it's the alleyway beside me, how they can come up through there and they don't have to jump the physical sidewalk, or if they have to go down further to where you're at like Birch Street and come up that way and then come to me. If I'm going across the street, I'm not saying that you've never had to do that because it has happened. You can't find parking. If they go across the street, what will happen is you physically have to hold traffic for them to get back and forth going across. So, I mean, everybody deals with their own freight issues, whether it's a food establishment, getting multiple trucks, because that's Cisco, that's, I know Chevy Chase, which is also the Red Rose, I think they're working together. That's also the same truck. They were actually parked in front of the fire hydrant in front of my store the other day trying to, I don't know if they're trying to unload or what they were trying to do, but they were parked there for a little while. So it's a multitude issue. I don't think there's a great way as far as loading zones as to what you could put in to where you're gonna meet the satisfaction of everybody. I can answer that. By all means, trucks, do you have to deal with this in Charlottesville and every other place that you go as to how do I fit in here and how do I get here to be able to load and unload? If you're going to have a loading zone, I think you need to put a time limit on it, kind of like what Charlottesville does, where you have a 15-minute loading zone. But then could you have it towards a dual purpose? Maybe. But like I said, everybody gets trucks different times of the day. Some might come first thing in the morning, some might come midday. My trucks don't usually come until 2 o'clock and later.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go back to my question. Where is your ideal loading zone? Right in front of your store or
I mean, ideally, yes, that's what everybody's hoping for, because then the freight company doesn't have to go but so far.
I just wanted to know.
That's anybody. I know at one point it was talked about Lindsay Street as making that to where you could unload or load. I'm not saying that you couldn't do that there, but then what happens when, say, somebody at the back of, I guess it's an Airbnb or rental property wants to get out and they can't get out, or you just supposed to tell them, hey, sorry, you gotta wait until we're done. Like if I have 8 pallets on the truck, that's gonna take all of 15 minutes. Getting them off the truck between each, because you only need 1 pallet at a time and you gotta raise, I have to have a lift gate component. So you gotta raise it up and raise it back down every time. But as far as loading zone, yes, ideally everybody wants it as close as they can get it, if it's easier. Does it make it practical as far as customer parking? No.
Kevin, is there still a door on that side of the building where you could unload on Lindsay?
It's not functioning because the previous people prior to me, when they put in the wall that kind of divides the front to the back, the dummies, they had two metal pieces that they put across it, to where now you can't physically get the metal pieces off. Could I grind them off? Possibly. But as of right now, no, we have that door sealed over so that water doesn't come through there either. But I can't get pallets, no matter what door I go through, I always have to put them out in front of the store. Either way, or in that case, if you're trying to go through there, it'd be down the alley and in part of it.
Yeah, well, those doors are small and that one right behind them.
Yeah, so I have to go and like physically undo, cut the shrink wrap, and physically carry all the freight in. Yeah.
The reason I'm asking, so I think Mr. Driscoll brought up about trying to get some data about each business.
Okay.
And so some businesses right in front of their store.
Let me ask James.
Let me finish. Yeah. Some businesses right in front of their store, some of them down the block. I know with
Yeah.
Mexican, it's on Birch Street.
Yeah.
So I think if we knew where these were, we could do some planning around that. And like it was mentioned at the last meeting about trying to how to do that early in the morning if possible, but it doesn't sound like that would work.
Equal. So I don't, like, I'm freight, I don't physically
So
control,
we know where you're
I
standing.
can't control the truck.
Okay,
I'm waiting for the truck. If I'm lucky, they call me 30 minutes ahead of time so I can try to be like, okay, where can they park and go look.
okay.
But beyond that, I have no control as to when the truck comes. It's how they load the physical trucks. So they load it depending on the route, just like UPS. You don't get UPS or FedEx the same time every time you order something. It's how they load the truck and how they run the route.
Okay. All right, thank
Thank
you. James, and at the last chair of Chamber of Commerce board meeting, I asked James to try to do a survey of businesses with the chamber, see what their thoughts were on voting and times and days and all that sort of thing. Did you come up with anything on that?
Yeah, so we'd ask more than just loading because there's quite a few businesses that don't have loading issues, so we just asked about parking. In general, we were able to survey 8 businesses on Valley Street here, and I did not include the supply store because I knew Scottsville Supply because I knew they were speaking tonight based on last meeting. So including that 9 businesses recently asked, and one business said they had a major issue with parking long-term customers from other businesses taking up spots where people were parking to frequent this one business, but they would stay there for hours at a time. They also 2 businesses mentioned they had an annoyance with long-term parking from other business owner operators, employees, parking out front of the businesses, taking up spots while they're at work. 5 businesses said that they didn't have any issues with parking at all. There wasn't any complaint of theirs, not complaining of their customers. Everybody recognized when there's a large event, it's a pain. As far as loading goes, everybody that had loading or deliveries, major deliveries, but they all said it's a pain, but it's something that they figured out and they've learned to deal with. Some people were parking across the street and loading through that way. I think if it were a closely monitored situation, I think there were probably some traffic laws being violated, any given loading or unloading situation, but nobody out of the 8 businesses that I surveyed, none of them had real issues with it. All of them confirmed that there was no way to set a time for the loading, not a day of the week, not a morning, not an afternoon. So they all said the same thing on that. Some general conversation takeaways that I got out of it. Maybe a letter to all the business owners, the request, try hunting first with as far as having employees or business owners park in the parking lot over here or somewhere that's off the street parking. Free up a few extra spots for customers. 2-hour parking was brought up in several conversations, and almost immediately in every conversation, everybody thought it was a good idea. And by the time they talked about it for a minute, they decided that it was the consequences of maybe having somebody not park there and fear of having to move their car and leaving as opposed to trickling down the street, walking through town, checking out another business. Not saying that was the case overall, but that was the general consensus, the way that conversation went in most places. Parking signs were brought up. People mentioned that they understand because they work and live here mainly that there are parking lots for people to park in, but none of their customers seem to see the parking sign. I took note driving down the street today. I can see this parking lot sign from before you hit James River Brewery if you're looking for it. I think it's just a general problem of seeing parallel parking, and you start looking for your spot. You're not paying attention to the signs very much, but yeah, a lot of people, a lot of businesses mentioned that they've had customers say, I was coming through town last week and I was going to stop, but there was no parking in front of your business, so I kept driving. So that was said to me more than once. Another suggestion for a solution was just getting the information out on all of the avenues possible, whether it's the Scottsville website, the chamber website, SCAN website, wherever. We have an online presence, maybe making maps that highlight the parking areas to give out to businesses. And I know SCAN has a little bit of a visitor center area as well. So on the kiosk, maybe they don't learn, maybe they have a hard time that one time finding parking, but they can see that and take it with them next time, have a little better parking experience. It was mentioned to me, the need for handicap street parking. I'm not sure that's possible on parallel parking or not, because I think you gotta get out one side or the other. Anyway, it was brought up, so I'm bringing it up to you. I don't know how possible it is. And then there was a suggestion about short-term parking in front of a business for like the pre-orders, like you can do a free line or your spot, and they recognize there's not enough parking for that, but that would be in a dream world. So just relaying the message. But yeah, overall, that was the collection of information I got, and did email it to you about 5 or so. We also put up the option to email me or email the chamber president on our recent newsletter, and only have one email add into that information. So that was at 5 o'clock today. Y'all should have your vote.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a thought that something that might be helpful, and maybe something with the chamber too. Perhaps we could create a standard document that is circulated over time that, it's, here's all the parking places in Scottsville. I know that was very detailed. Sometimes, for example, when you go to the Iwo Jima Memorial in DC as a tour guide, it's tricky to get there. You have to, sometimes you get bus directions to people so that they might get to that spot. And what I'm suggesting is maybe what we do over time is we create a document that every business could have. Maybe it's sponsored by the chamber, and it says, here's all the places you can park in Scottsville, and it's a uniform sheet, and it directs people to those. That won't solve problems for everybody, but it is something that over time, if you're a repeat business person, you might be, hey, park down there for you. So that's, but I will say, this is helpful to hear both where there is problems and where there are, because the difficulty with this, as everybody knows, it's not difficult to understand. We have much more need than we do spaces. So trying to direct people to them. So first of all, thank
like
you.
that?
That's really bad.
No, we have something. No, it's not.
Well, what I'm suggesting maybe is not just a map, but it would be something that could be. I mean, there's lots of different ways we could have it in a technological sense. You could have a way. It could be a video that somebody does. It could be it could also be a printed sheet that somebody could pick up, and you have, here's 4 different lots. You're ultimately, it's a way that we want to educate people over time. when I lead tours at the University of Virginia, because I do it all the time, I know where to park after a while, because I don't want to pay, I know where to go. But again, we want to make it easy for customers, so they come. So that ultimately the first one, people have an easy access to something that somebody's a repeat person. You want them to understand. At the same time, people have different disabilities and needs and age, and you want to make it our young children. So, and or large things that need to be picked up.
I did miss one comment on here about, and it was about the residents parking for over 24 hours and taking up the spots, and it was suggested that some ticketing of people that are parking for more than business day out there might change their habits of parking there along with their parking long periods of time. But missed that on the first go around.
Thank you, Alexa, was I?
Yeah.
I just want to touch on what Councilor Whitco said. If we were to go through and do maps, signage and everything, my big question would actually be to our town attorney, Mr. Boland. If the town was to go through, put sign and educate the public, and it sounds like some of the issues we're having is the lack of enforcement. From a town standpoint, in order for a person to issue a ticket for somebody for parking, whatever, does that have to be a person that, like a law enforcement officer, or can the town maybe get some volunteers and this is what the person does? I mean, does the town have a legal right to put a ticket to, hey, you're in violation of the parking? I mean, how?
If you're going to enforce your parking ordinance, ultimately is enforceable in court, you should have a town employee do it. And the way it's traditionally done in most places is you got something, a meter man, and they require a salary. And that's
Okay, so a person, so the town could not.
You don't want volunteers.
Well, no, I mean, what I'm getting at, not only be a volunteer, but it'd be somebody who would do this on their own time
They should be an official town employee because
okay.
they ultimately.
So they would have to have a salary.
Take an oath that there was a violation and they observe it, because you're enforcing an ordinance which has penalties. And you shouldn't have ordinances that you're not going to enforce. And that's why you got rid of the 2-hour parking ordinance that was in place before, because it became a burden on it, at least from my perspective, my understanding, it became a burden on the police department to enforce the ordinance, especially if they had to get involved in any sort of court proceedings, but they had other things to do other than patrol parking, which is what you have to do if you're going to enforce it. As I understand too, there's a quirk in the code that changed that you can't go along now and mark cars like people used to do. Is what we used to see. It's more convoluted than enforcing that. But you can definitely go back to your old procedure and enforce it. It's just that you're going to need some employees, and they're going to. My observation that they end up having to be paid when you have them to do it.
Yeah, Chief Jenkins pretty much explained that in a long dissertation last week at the work session, that whatever we do is really unenforceable unless you have a hired person to monitor it and issue summonses.
Right, and former town administrators laid all that out to you in a couple of very well written memos in January of this year, which you might want to review, which and he specifically addressed a memo on this issue alone to you. I think he kind of laid out what the issues are and then why you did away with parking on Valley Street and before.
Okay, well, something we'll continue to discuss.
Well, that's my name is George Dancy. I recently opened a seafood produce store, 527 Valley Street. Parking is definition. I think you guys are aware of that. We had customers coming and set up in here earlier. We couldn't find place to park. So to work on something to address that. Well, we deliver our own goods. That's something that we have a store inside Scottsville that supplies this store. We bring it over here ourselves. person called, but. They didn't ask, hopefully we do so.
Well, appreciate your input. We're gonna try.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council. George Goodwin. I have talked to a number of people even tonight. And you had ordinances, you still have ordinances that would take care of this. And the enforcement was, the town administrator would simply enforce special use permits and or if it's not special use permit that exists, as Melody said, for the overtop bank, for example, the council needs to have a meeting and put one together. So that you do have an understanding with the people that live upstairs where they're supposed to park or entitled to park. Because the town, without advertising a special meeting to the public, did away with all of our ordinance for parking just at a meeting. So if you want to do that, why don't you just do away with that ruling and go back to our ordinances? Our ordinances would fix all of this. Every single bit of it, other than the loading. And the loading, as Jenkins said at the work session last week, he pretty much worked it out with most people, and he kind of turns his head a little bit and it happens. And it's taken care of. Even at Kimberly's place. She has probably the largest quantity and the most weight of anybody in town getting loading other than Scottsville Steel up there. But when a customer buys a beehive and needs to walk very far at all, they're out of luck. Kimberly will have to walk out and help and leave the store unattended because she's a single employee. It's crazy to have people that live upstairs park on the street. It didn't used to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way. And it's a very simple fix. You go back to your zoning rules, you honor them, and the town administrator writes a letter. It doesn't have to be all up and down the street, a bunch of time and everything. Just write a letter, say these are the rules we need to follow. Period. And their enforcement actions beyond them. I really beg you to please fix that, because I know that you're trying to figure out, send out parking information and all that. Well, I can say I helped the store this week and was there this last week. Virginia Beach, Richmond, Chesterfield, Norfolk Culpeper, and one from Stanton. Those folks don't know where our parking is. They know where the store is, and that's barely doing that. They try to come down here, buy the product, get close so they can load the product. And that's it. If we just had people that would be respectful of the parking and of the fact that it's a historic district, you have a lot of businesses competing for the spaces, and not have tenants parking on the street. It will all be simple right now. And you can fix that tonight. We do have rules and ordinances that say all of the upstairs is supposed to be special use and no parking on the street. And it even has a list of how many off-street parking spots they have. And we have one special use permit that the recording of the meeting for Carmel Greer, the recording doesn't match the special use permit. It needs to be fixed. And one more part that needs to be fixed. It said no commercial, no residential on the main level. There's residential on the main level. There's a bed on the main level. See straight to the window. Shouldn't be there. County administrator can fix that too. That's on the books right now. That hadn't changed. Just take care of the rules and follow them, and town's great for it. And I'll give 2 more comments, not parking, but I'll give 2 more comments. The heating and air conditioning system downstairs, Javier did ask me about that. If you don't put at least a louvered door on there, don't bother doing mold remediation or anything else, because it'll come right back. You need to have air to get that. It was crazy to put heating and air in a closet like that. It doesn't get any ventilation. And as far as the budget goes, the emergency fund is an emergency fund. We borrowed money with Streetscape. We put the money back within a week of when we got the money back. not years later, it's not a 4-year program to pay it back. If you have an emergency, you have an emergency, you need to be able to put it back within the year. And a little dabble of no hardly any interest. Make it costly if you're gonna take the money out. Make it think 10% or 20% interest for it. It's not a piggyback.
Okay, well, we thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
And as I said, we will continue to work with our new town administrator on parking issues. I'm not gonna make any decisions on parking tonight. But there is one. 18.3.4 says reasonable attempts shall be made to comply with all provisions of this ordinance about parking. However, historic preservation objectives described in section 18.1 are paramount with respect to the many provisions of this ordinance and may justify less than full compliance with sections 4.11. So we have a way to.
On 6.6.2.
That's okay, we're finished with the parking. Gonna move on.
That's an invalid interpretation of that, sir.
They're gonna move on. to Item number 8. I'll call for a public hearing, opening a public hearing for talk about the budget. Anybody wishes to speak on to the budget, they may step forward and speak. I will close the public hearing. Want to walk us through the this is a different budget figures than we had last week at the work session. We decided, if you look at your agenda, and this basically is something that Mr. Goodwin just mentioned. We took the levy repair out of the budget. When we get a firm estimate that we're happy with on the levy repair, this resolution that you're going to vote, this motion that's going to be voted on by you 6 gentlemen, will say that we will take the money out of the Caldwell fund to pay for the levee repairs, and we will pay it back in a timely manner at a specific percentage rate. So it doesn't make us our budget $80,000 in the hole. It actually gives us $2,000 plus side to it. So, Melody, you want to go over the budget as you've got it figured now?
Now, is this for the discussion appropriations for this year, the 24-25 budget?
The 25-27.
Oh, so we're done with that. We're done with 24-25. We're on 25-26 now.
We still have to discuss reappropriations.
Yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, maybe we should go in order. The reappropriation, which will.
That.
Item A,
It's
9A.
last, okay, we had. The revenues changed with a difference of. A plus of $36,920 for reappropriation when on 12/16. The projected was $883,500. As of current, the reappropriation for revenue is $920,420, which brings an increase of $36,920. We had expenditures as of 12/16 of $847,224. The end of year appropriation came in a little higher at $913,644, which made a difference. An increase in expenditures of $66,420, which gave us a negative deduction from income. 12/16, we had an income proposed of $36,276 on the plus side. And after the end of year reappropriations, we had still have a plus of $6,776, excuse me, which is a deduction of $29,500 from the reappropriation at 12/16. So we're still in the black.
This year, for this year.
For this year.
And how much?
We just had to change some things that was
I don't have that in front of me, but so how much are we in the black this year?
$6,776.
Okay, 6,776, okay.
We can't, pretty much with the the deductions, some things are up, some things are low, sales tax came in a little lower than what we had projected. So we had to make different changes for that. Let's see things that are out of your control.
So you wanna hit the highlights of the 25-26 budget?
In the 25-26 budget, I feel it's very, you're showing the negative debts of $83,008. Taking the $86,000 out from the levy will put us at a positive $2,992. Again, it was 3% basically across the board for revenues and expenditures. We can't predict who's coming into town, who's leaving town, who's, if we're selling or not. As far as expenditures, we have just like I said, 3% is what I'll be next figure.
3% is the,
3%.
so what is the 3% mean? And I heard that a couple times.
The 3%, he did is that inflation. 3% inflation across the board.
Oh, okay. Because I looked it up and it said 2.4%, I saw.
Well, we go a little higher because your current inflation is 2.4%. 5 months down the road, we could be at 10%. We don't know that. So we just kind of take the middle of the road and bump it by 3%. And that's where your reappropriations come in at 6 months. If we see that we're running above or beyond, then we can do our reappropriations then to adjust.
I personally think we should go low, 2.5% or something like that.
But if you go 2.5% and then you hit, we do go up to 10%, or we go up to even 5%, then you're going to be more in the hole. I would rather do a little bit higher than go low.
And what you're saying, not only that is a sound approach, what Councilor Heisen is saying is, it's true that we would rather go as low as we can, but when you're budgeting, you do need to understand the realities that are out there. So, these numbers are fair. They're not inflated. The inflation numbers are not inflated.
And you can look as good as you want on paper. It's all going to come down to that end of July where we're at. If you want to go 2.5, you can. You can leave it at 3%. We can adjust it. But,
Or you can make it 2.4 or 3.1, whatever you want to do. It's just a lot of places do a lot more liberal than conservative, but you'll find that most jurisdictions have a fairly conservative approach to how they figure about inflation.
Yeah, that's what I think. He was. I just think we got such an uncertain economy.
Well, that's more reason why you don't want to go from 2.5 to 2.1. You want to probably want to go to 5%, given craziness out there right now. But that's neither here nor there. That's just a guess, and that's what inflation for the future is. It's a guess.
And again, the revenues depends on collecting our meals tax, collecting our repos, collecting everything that we can, not letting these people get behind. And that was trouble.
Yes, we did.
I did, yeah.
Other questions?
Melanie, there was something in the budget about $18,000 for maintenance equipment. Can you explain how that came around?
Is it on the 25, 26 budget?
I believe so. Excuse me.
Would that be in capital business?
Right now, in the 25, 26, we have working under maintenance, replacement.
I'm not sure it was a line item, but it was included in our copy of the last budget.
$10,000
See that there anymore.
to cover my equipment.
18,000.
Oh, I think we said, I think there was something that you proposed. I think you
Well,
proposed
yeah.
about 2 months ago about
That
getting
was,
some equipment or something like that.
right, because our zero turn is about ready to. Let
Is
go.
that in here?
It is not on this budget, it
Okay.
is actually on, if you look at number 2. On the agenda, B2,
Oh, okay, so this is a separate thing.
right,
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't, honestly, if you're. To take it out and put it back, is basically what I'm saying, take it out of your Caldwell fund. Put it back
I mean-
with the 4% interest,
$18,000 for one piece of equipment.
that's one piece of equipment, that's. You've got your zero turn, you've got some other things that he needs.
What else? I mean, what other things?
I can make list of what he has, yeah, it's not 18,000, it's 10,000.
Even at 10,000 for a piece of equipment, it's still in the long run gonna cost more because you're gonna have to maintain it. You have to take care of it. I mean, who fixed the equipment? When it breaks down, does he repair it himself or do we have to send it somewhere? I mean, it's just trying to,
They've got Band-Aids on everything, so they've sent it nowhere to be fixed. Right now, the motor basically dumps it together, hoping that it doesn't let go. So, and if it does let go, then your grass is gonna be,
Well, we could probably rent something. We could be something, I think, less than $10,000 easily.
the law to buy a new zero turn is $7,639 right now, that's a Bobcat.
We can discuss, sorry to interrupt you, we can discuss maintenance, the future of that and what we wanna do. But I think if we're gonna work with this budget we have right now, we're gonna have to set money aside to have a properly operating equipment. And I think that if we wanna discuss the direction of maintenance for the town later on, that might be a good thing to do, and I think we might end up having to talk about it right now. We need a mower. Or at least need to fix the one we have. I don't think denying funds for that. In the short term anyways, is gonna solve. The problem of having.
To fix the one you have, you're gonna put a new motor in it. So the motor, the head on the motor is cracked. And they actually have it JB welded together, so. It's either you're gonna spend $3,000 or $4,000 to put a new motor, by the time you take it in, have it put in. Fixed, or just spend the $7,000 and get a new one.
Other question? Looks like we'll wait till it goes before we do it, instead of
See,
projecting.
that's the problem. You guys wait till it goes and put a Band-Aid on it, and then. I have a guy standing on the street and you guys are saying. We don't mow the grass. Well, I can't mow the grass because I don't have anything to mow the grass with. Do you want me to take a push mower and have him push everything?
To follow up on what you said, Melody, so. Council Bassett, I agree with you that, so in the budget, we do. Have the money for this for next year. I think it's wise. That we do it, I mean, you missed the conversation last week.
Aren't you taking a loan out for this?
You would, there's.
See, that's different. So
So
it's not in the budget per se,
No.
it's in a loan and that, and I think somebody made a point about, we don't take loans unless when we have a really specific.
When you're gonna.
That wasn't
Taking that first way.
Well, let me say this, that was an opinion of somebody that the money that's been here in the Caldwell Fund was money that has been something we've been very protective of as a town for a long time.
We should.
But there are times where it is necessary. That's the same reason that you have an emergency fund with family. You can save money for a long time.
And let's go back to my original point, if it's not an emergency, so we could get through it all the way through the season.
Well, why
And then we have it break, and then it can be an emergency, and then we could use that fund, but if it's not an emergency, why put that out there?
I think what she's saying.
Let's just wait for the crisis.
And I think what she's saying is, she's giving us a warning that is based on the emergency of the homeless, but.
But I don't think that's great. Well, it's good.
How high does the water have to get to be an emergency? I mean,
Have it in the budget, doesn't mean you have to spend it.
That's right.
If you have it there and you don't need it, it's still there. If you have it there and you have an emergency, you've got it to spend, okay?
And what I'm just saying is, okay, you set it aside, it does break, then I have permission of the council through a motion to go buy the equipment that he needs and not wait for 3 or 4 weeks to come back and say, I need you guys to approve this now. If we approve it ahead of time, then we're good to go.
And I think I'm concurring with council beside, that's kind of what you're saying, right? You'd rather do it, I agree with you, I think that's your thoughts are.
And and if we want to have that discussion about what to do as far as functionally, with maybe specifically the mower or the maintenance department or anything else. You can have that discussion further down the road, but approving right now, just related to the budget, I think it's wise. To take the money or to approve the money. In case we do, we don't have to have a special meeting for it, have to, advertise, I think we'd have to advertise that if we're gonna change the budget in the future.
Yeah.
So.
It's also good faith for the clerk and the new town administrator to do the best they can do with the town staff to make sure we're providing both what needs to be done in terms of grass cutting. On the other hand, giving you the opportunity to be ready and our new town administrator really ready as she hears all the issues to be diligent, which in fact, as you, our new town administrator, when you come in, we're thinking you're gonna solve all these problems the first week or two that you're in.
Well, let me ask about this $10,000, say. Everything's fine, but say the roof starts leaking, can we use that $10,000 for the roof? Yeah. Or would that have to be a separate?
That would have to be a
So
separate.
this is only specifically for that.
For that
For
mower,
that,
right?
okay. Close.
What was the rest of the money that you said 7 for this? It's in here, $3,000 for,
It's, the mowers are on sale for $7,600, but they're originally $10,000 mowers. If we miss a sale, we need that extra bump to get that mower.
so this $10,000 is, it's like you said, if we don't get the discount.
Believe me, I fight for every discount I can get from him.
Thank you.
Other questions?
There's more.
So, Mr. Mayor, just so I understand too, so as we take what we had proposed. Or what we basically talked about last week, but it seemed maybe not love with it, but acceptable to it, but we're adjusting it, so can you re-explain what would need to be done?
Well, we have to, well, when we have hammered out our final edit on this budget, we have to call for a special meeting, and next Monday night would be a good time to have one to get together and approve the budget.
With the, so you're, again, just so we're clear, so we're taking the.
He was talking about how you're gonna handle the common fund and cover the potential deficit.
Right,
So
so
that's what you're asking.
taking that off, slightly changing the overall take of the budget, and then allowing public input for that change, and then going ahead and doing it within the an advertised time period. Knowing we have a July 1st deadline.
Exactly.
So, what other thoughts does everybody have up here about that?
So what we discussed tonight, a week from now, is,
Present that as the one we're gonna vote on.
okay, so if we don't make a change tonight, it's not gonna get done.
We have to wait, so.
I mean, well, we'll have a special meeting in 7 days, if someone makes a motion to do that. So it's no discussion next week, it's just a rubber stamp.
Well, I think I would, let's say, Councilor Payne is we thought we were at this point last week, but we realized we're not. So
Yeah.
we're trying to get to the point tonight so we can be there next week.
Because I'll have to do the ordinance, make up for the reappropriations for the 24-25, and then I will redo the paperwork on the budget. And I will make sure you guys all get a copy before Monday, showing that instead of the $83,000 deficit, there will be a plus of the 2992.
And we can vote on the motion to withdraw money from the Caldwell Fund to pay for levy expenses.
And then you're showing the budget, Caldwell Fund to be covering the deficit.
Right.
Okay.
So at the same meeting, we can vote on a motion to use Caldwell Fund money to repair the levy
Correct.
with the promise to pay it back.
What do we have to do tonight so that we're in the right position for next week, since Mr. Bowling is sitting here?
Well, you really don't have to do anything tonight, it's for the public hearing.
Okay.
That was
Hear
my
comments
question.
from the public.
So we can make cuts next week if we want to see some things.
Sure, but again, as I wrote to everybody, in response to your email, if you make a change that's greater than what, you're gonna have, you make a change that's gonna change the budget substantially, more than 1%, then you're gonna have to re-advertise.
Then we have to have.
And then if you make a change that requires the use of the raising taxes, you're gonna have, and have another public hearing.
That was what we were hoping to have done last
Well,
week,
that's
instead of
right.
making a minor tweak
Oh,
tonight.
If you make any
Right,
sense,
so
wait another week.
You might not wanna do that.
Re-advertise. That's $700 a pop, I think.
Need a motion to call for a special meeting next Monday night at 7 PM.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Well, let me just make sure, so with this, are we? As council, are we okay with this budget? With doing what's been described? I'm not trying to rush it.
If there's some minor tweaking that has to be done next week, we'll do that next week.
What he's saying is that we're clear, it has to be under 1%, so that's pretty minor.
Well. I haven't done the math, I don't know what you want to do, so.
Right.
I comment on that.
Well,
But you're gonna use, the budget will show the Caldwell Fund, as I understand it. Now, right, the budget
Right.
to show the Caldwell Fund, we use to cover the deficit. I mean, the other alternative is just to have to operate in the red, that's something we could do too, but that's generally frowned upon for reasons we all know about it.
I just want to make sure that if we move forward tonight, that we, in good faith, to the town improve the process next week, which I think people will follow happens tonight. So whatever we do, I don't want to come, I'm not coming next week to change anything. Me personally, there's nothing I'm trying to change.
Well, you have to change something.
Well, no, I mean, we have to change it.
Want to balance the budget.
No, we're gonna change it tonight, is what I'm saying. We're making that, we're agreeing to the idea. I'm not looking for other nickels and diming this next week, is what I'm saying to the town councilors. If we're,
Well, let me ask you a question, because about a month ago, there was interest in racism taxes. Transit ICT and meals tax. And this recent one, we do, it doesn't have that in it, so we wouldn't bring that up.
Because we voted not to.
Yeah, that's the reason that was taken out is you did decide not to do it.
we voted unanimously not to raise the tax.
That was what, a month ago. I remember that. So we could do that later on, if we want to.
You can.
We look like we're really needed money. Right, but we could do that.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be during the budget.
No, it could be done after.
Okay.
Give you $1,500 for the
But
year.
they're gonna raise taxes,
Come on.
you know, I mean, realistically, the reason they have, you do a budget is for planning, it's not locked in stone, it's for planning purposes. So it can be changed, but the reason you set the tax rate annually and do the budget is to do it on, everybody wants to do it on as seldom as possible as far as managing tax.
And the reason we also didn't do it is because we are trying to be responsive to our businesses who express concern about trying to raise it higher, and because of that, we are wanting to be respectful of their needs and not trying to price them.
I also-
Or to position.
Also, if I understand the numbers, there's what I see, $300,000 in meals tax last year. You raise it 0.5%, that's what, $1,500?
No, well,
Yeah, it's $1,500.
0.5%.
That's what you're talking about, because it's 6.5 and the highest you can go is 7%. So when you're talking about raising meals taxes off of $300,000 in revenue last year, another 0.5% off of that 300,000 is $1,500. Ain't gonna work with the numbers. Am I wrong in my math? I mean, it's public math.
15,000.
What is 0.5% of 300,000? I did the math earlier. I'm right, $1,500. $1,500 is all you're talking about. And once you hit that button, there is nothing higher next year. So $1,500 isn't going to do it. And then throw in sales tax. You know, it's just not enough money there. You can't squeeze that lemon some more to get more juice much. 1,500 ain't going to do it. I'll bet you, this is just me on the events committee, I'll bet you get more than $1,500 off of Fridays on the canal easily with sales tax and that. And I don't know the numbers. I don't have access, of course. But I'll guarantee, I'd bet a Coke you get more than that for every Friday on the canal. 1,500. I mean, it's just not that much money. And then you're aggravating the business owners.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but, under the expenditures, town clerk and maintenance, it appeared to me that there's a raise in salary, is that right?
I think it was cost of living.
Right, did a cost of living on everybody. Same thing we did across the board with the police department.
I think it's just as, what, do you, does it note the percentage?
Probably 3%.
2.5%.
2.5 or 3, I think you did 3%.
I think it's 3.
Again, that's a reasonable number.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything, except cost of living is not a given, it's a raise. And we would have to vote on any raises.
Yeah. I would think.
Approving the budget, you're voting on the raise.
Yeah, it's included, I mean, it is in the budget.
Well, you understand that.
But you don't have to take a separate vote on it unless it's like the middle of the year and say, let's give somebody some money. This is a good job.
If I can comment on your comment,
If it's in the budget, then the voting on it, when you vote to the budget.
I think you're gonna see that it's gonna be just like the 0.5% on meals tax. It means a lot to our employees that work hard, and it's not gonna make the difference that we want it to in our budget long term. So we can't afford it right now anyways. So in the future, maybe it's something to look at, but I think it's an appropriate thing to do this cycle.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that it's not a given, it's not mandatory,
Absolutely.
so it was put in there.
I don't think that's those costs, that's cost they live in. I don't think that's 2.5%. I think
It's based on inflation.
10%. It's 10% figure and 6% for the rest.
No, it's 3%, but it's good for the.
2% more? In this is not.
it's a good faith number for the employees, for the police department and for the staff.
Well, I don't think they have an insurance department.
Yeah, they do.
Well, they,
Yeah, it's across the board for staff.
2.5%?
I don't remember the right what percent we did doing that out for free.
Can you look at that, make sure everybody's got the 3% for those?
Yeah, I can look at it.
Those are almost, because I don't think this is the same for everybody. That's something.
Anybody else have anything before we vote on this motion for a special meeting next Monday night?
Mr. Mayor, one thing I was just gonna say is to go back to Council Tyson, it is for us making sure that we all agree on that point. I think this, again, the cost of living.
3%. It's 2.5, we're gonna go 3%.
Well, no, I'm. We were fine with what was in the budget. I'm not suggesting we change the number based off of. I'm suggesting we keep what we had in here. I'm just more asking Melody, maybe we just double check what that percentage was.
Yes, all of them.
I'll have to
Only
email Bobby and
full-time,
send them now.
only full-time employees. Yeah.
But I think it's the same percentage that was there.
Any other discussion?
Well, the only thing is that I'm just very worried about we live within our means and we not be burdened with loans and that we're not in the same place next year where we're gonna be and have a deficit, but I think, you know, that was the glaring thing, and when I saw this, we were $83,000 in debt. That was like unheard of, to me, that was unheard of, and so, you know, I do think we need to make sure that we balance as much as possible. And we just have to cut back as much as we can. And
We're debating on fixing our lawnmower.
yeah,
We're running a tight ship, right?
yeah, well, I understand that. But I mean, if there's other cuts we could take. You don't need like park rails, we haven't done that in a while. And there's a few other things we could cut back.
It is
So we need equipment, I know that.
money into a levy system that if
Yeah.
that levy fails,
I
your
agree,
county's gonna flow.
I agree.
So I mean, it's either spend that money now or have Army Corps pull out because they warned us 3 times that you either do it or we're not gonna have anything to do with your levy. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know, do Elizabeth knows a little bit more about the levy system than I do. And I'm working with on that.
It's trying to find out, I get to the bottom of that grant, make sure that that was submitted.
And also, you know, it's something that unfortunately it's maintenance. That we have to do.
And what, again, to go back to what Javier did with this, and again, as we've discussed, not just last week, but for a number of months, we're running it's a tight year. And that $86,000, we're talking about accounting for it and trying to, in good faith, both be clear to the town, we want to do this repair. At the same time, we are this is a tight budget this year, and we're taking the advice of our town attorney, making an adjustment so that we both do the repair, but also have the other numbers balanced.
Can we vote on the special meeting for next Monday? It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion on the special meeting next Monday? Not anybody else? All in favor? Okay, sounds unanimous. Any other business?
Oh, wait, hold on.
All right.
I know it's kind of crucial. I'd like to discuss or nominate Stephen Meeks for the planning commission.
Planning commission has to make the recommendation.
No. It's not-
Yeah.
No,
Well, there,
Planning commission has to make a selection and they give it to us to approve.
that's not appropriate at all. It's only up to the town council to do that.
After we've been given a candidate.
No.
We have both Nancy Gill and we have.
No, but
Well, in any event, it's not on the agenda.
You
Mike,
said there's any other business, and,
that's not on the agenda.
No, I'm not.
We're not gonna
Well, I
talk about
want-
that tonight.
well, I want to talk about the planning commission does not have the right to choose their own members.
They're not choosing their own members, they're
That's
submitting
right.
and they're.
They do not have the right to recommend their own members.
First of all, Stephen Beeks, before he can be on any of our commissions, he needs to pay me his bills for the last 3 years,
Okay, well, I just want to
correct?
bring up that he's,
I don't know about that, but he's deficient in his business license.
Yes, he is, 3 years.
I mean, do you know, doesn't the town council select these?
What is the question, sir?
Doesn't the town council select all the,
Of course,
point? Okay.
the county council selects the planning committee, but I don't think that that's what they're saying, they're just saying. what's been
Planning
done in the
commission makes
past,
a
they give
recommendation.
recommendation from the planning commission as to a member of the planning.
So that's the first step, they have to come up with recommendations.
As I understand, is that right, Mel?
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't think that's the process.
Well,
Well, I don't think, I was on the planning commission, I
I know,
know.
you're, this town council ultimately,
All right, but I mean,
you vote.
We're simply,
when I was on the planning commission, we never picked our own members, they just showed up.
we're not picking.
No, but I mean, the planning commission didn't pick them, they didn't even have any say in it, they just
well,
showed
they're
up.
not picking them, they're still offering a candidate, and it's up to you guys to vote whether you want him or not.
That's new though, that's never
No,
happened.
it's not new, It's the way it's always worked. So anyhow, the meeting, in motion to adjourn,
Motion.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Sit. That on board, right?
I didn't know.
I